The Canucks need a solution after a disappointing game versus the Minnesota Wild showcased the worst of Canucks hockey, calling for immediate solutions despite a pair of standout performances in the blowout, but man do they need some help. We're going to break down all of that in this episode of Canucks Digest, but first, if you're not a part of the nearly 40% of viewers who are already subscribed to the channel and you want to stay up to date on all things Canucks, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the episodes when they drop. And with that, let's hop straight into it, which is that solutions are needed. So as evident from what we saw tonight as the Vancouver Canucks went into Minnesota and got absolutely dog walked by a score of 5-2, losing at an empty netter where it was 4-2 for the longest time in the third period, and then the empty netter just made it 5-2, and it just made matters worse, with Vancouver Canucks now posting a record of 6 wins and 7 losses. Pause for the laugh. And then you have as well here where we had a game where Drew O'Connor did score twice and Aatu Räty had 2 assists for the banged up Canucks, who have now lost 5 of their last 7 games and have only 3 regulation wins. Yikes. Canucks captain Quinn Hughes missed his 4th straight game with a lower body injury, but joined the team on this trip and was expected to return soon. Right wing Brock Boeser also returned to the first line after being forced out of the last game at St. Louis with an injury where he took a friendly fire slap shot. But the scoring overall for tonight, Drew O'Connor definitely led the way with the only 2 goals for Vancouver. Aatu Räty, like we mentioned, getting 2 assists, but Mackenzie McEachran also getting his first assist of the season in his Canucks debut for the Vancouver team this season, where he showcased a lot of promise and made a really good splash in his very first game. We'll touch on him in a second, but overall, this Vancouver team needs help, and they need it fast. The face-off circle, once again, losing in the face-off circle in percentage. Shots on goal, we were able to get the edge by just 1, but it wasn't very convincing as far as how many shots they were getting on net. Power play, they did not get any chances. Unfortunately, gave up another power play goal. And who are you going to guess gave up a lot of penalties? Evander Kane was one of the suspects of that as well. So that was something there where Evander Kane was causing some trouble, as we have becoming to expect from him, and has really become a liability at this point in that aspect as far as it goes for the Canucks. Yes, he's getting a lot of shots on net. He's gone a long time without getting a goal, which is very detrimental for the Vancouver Canucks right now because they need goals. And yes, the noise has been around Evander Kane has been very loud as far as just shipping him the hell out of Vancouver and cutting your losses and just saying, hey, see ya, let's get future considerations for you. But within this, I think he is still contributing offensively a little bit. Yes, he hasn't scored at all, but he's still trying to get a lot of shots on net. He's still busting his ass out there, but he is playing very undisciplined hockey, which is something that we thought was going to be something of the past when he came to Vancouver. Nope, it's just translated from every single place he's gone to, including Edmonton, all the way over to Vancouver. So we were the fools to think that something would be different. But here's hoping that he can either turn it around or the Vancouver Canucks just ship him out, cut their losses, get some future considerations for him, or at least a player that can get some help or reinforcements for this team, because my God, do they absolutely need it. This was only a game where they had 22 hits. Kiefer Sherwood wasn't able to get as many hits as he usually gets or get on the point sheet as well. Only 12 block shots for Vancouver as well. 14 giveaways, only 2 takeaways. This was a very defensive game for Minnesota where they had a lot of scoring, but they very much shut Vancouver down offensively almost completely, where they didn't have a lot of chances. The shots on goal were pretty scarce throughout the first period for Vancouver, and it didn't really get going. It got going a little bit in the second period, but it didn't translate into many crazy opportunities, which did ultimately suck to see as a result. But there was one silver lining, and that was Mackenzie McEachran, who finished the game with 3 shots on goal and an assist. The Canucks forward leader in ice time and lots of PK time, to be fair. Elias Pettersson only finished with 1, and that shot on target was registered by EP40 in the final few minutes with the Canucks on the man advantage when they had it late in the game. This was very, very, very unfortunate to see, where you had a guy making his Canucks debut who basically outplayed everybody except Drew O'Connor. He was the second best player on the ice tonight, and it went to show where all the best guys, they did not show up. That lineup, that first line, they did not look good at all tonight. They could not get things clicking. Second line, they didn't do much better either. It seemed to be the Abbotsford guys really that stepped up in this game and really laced them up and were ready to play hockey. Drew O'Connor, I know, isn't an Abbotsford guy, but the other guys that were playing on his line, those guys are Abbotsford guys. Basically, the entire second and third pair and third lines are all Abbotsford guys at this point because we are so banged up, have so many injuries. We need Quinn Hughes back. We need so many people back. We need Conor Garland back. We need Nils Höglander back. It's going to be a very rough, tough outing for the Vancouver Canucks as they go through the early part of this season. But it's a very long season. It's still 82 games. It's not like the season is over already. There's still a lot of hockey to be played. Yes, we are playing bad against the really good teams and we're beating the crappy teams. But eventually, once we get healthier, hopefully something does click. I know you guys are going to say in the comments that I'm just being a blind optimist. The season's already over, yada, yada, yada. But the season just started, guys. There is still time for Vancouver to right this ship. Just remember, 2 years ago, Vancouver was off to being the hottest team in the entire first half of the NHL 2 years ago. Then the wheels kind of fell off a little bit and they were kind of hobbling into the postseason. That did end up with them getting one game away from the Western Conference Final, but that still wasn't playing nearly as good as they were playing in the first half as they were 2 seasons ago. So we know that this is a team that can either turn it around or just completely fall apart in the second half of the season. Here's hoping that they can kind of get it together before the second half of the season and just have consistent hockey maintained throughout to kind of be one of those teams where the Pacific Division seems like it could be wide open this year. Seattle is playing really well, but thankfully Edmonton, they're kind of turned into a dumpster fire this year with all the drama and the McDavid stuff. Then you have the Flames, they're kind of crappy right now. The Kings are kind of crappy. So this is where Vancouver can kind of seize the opportunity where, yes, they're banged up right now. But once we get some of these players back, we can hopefully start to see Vancouver play a little bit more consistent hockey and get some more wins. But the biggest thing here is with this lineup, even when you bring back Conor Garland and some of these guys, you're still having to play a lot of Abbotsford guys. There's still guys that are on LTIR and won't be back for quite some time. So we're still going to have to weather the storm here with a lot of Abbotsford guys. I know Steven Stamkos is a name that was kind of floated out there around the Canucks. Mark has a video ready on that, so stay tuned for that coming out as well. But overall, Steven Stamkos, I think stay away from him. He's proven to be washed up right now at this point. But overall, what Vancouver needs right now, they need somebody to really get this top two, the first line or on the second line, do something to get it going where you can have a guy that can play with Kiefer Sherwood and Conor Garland, that can rotate in and out of that front two line, where it isn't someone who is just relegated to a second line spot, isn't just relegated to a third or fourth line spot. Someone that you can rotate in those top two lines that can be versatile and will offer Vancouver more balance and more depth in the top six that they absolutely need. Because when you look at this top six right now, that is not a playoff team when you look at it on paper. Even when they get some players back, like I said with Conor Garland, that's just one piece. You get Quinn Hughes back, that's a huge piece. Yes, that's your captain. But still, as a result, Vancouver has a lot of injuries here. We're even heading into this season at fully healthy. There was still a lot of question marks as far as what this roster would be capable of with the current depth that they have. Some players have been exceeding those expectations, some have not. But this is still something where Vancouver still had moves to be made going into this season, and now more than ever, they absolutely need to go and make another one, because you saw what was happening in the first part of the season when you had a decent amount of guys healthy and it wasn't entirely working out then. Now you really need to do something to kind of get some damage control. You brought in Lukas Reichel. Hasn't entirely worked out for the best things in there as far as being that 2C that we needed in the absence of Filip Hronek. But still, there are some moves out there to be made. It's just a matter of finding the right one to be made. It's not Sonny. It's not Stamkos. Hopefully there is somebody out there, hopefully by the name of Pavel Zacha, that Vancouver can get from the Boston Bruins. It's not going to be David Pastrnak, as much as I would love to see that. But if they can get Pavel Zacha, that at least is something to help this team, because they absolutely need reinforcements. Bring in the cavalry. Bring in some fire support, because this Vancouver team is hurting right now. They're very inconsistent. They're looking really rough right now, especially when Kiefer Sherwood isn't just firing off 3 goals in a game or having a multi-point game. Vancouver needs everybody to be stepping up their game, but it's just a matter of having that right firepower to fight back against these really good teams, like a team like Minnesota, like a team like St. Louis, and some other ones that Vancouver has struggled against this season. But let us know your guys' thoughts on the game down below. I know a lot of you guys were probably watching the World Series as well. That was one thing. That was why this video was delayed as well, where we were just watching that one and just going from the Canucks game over to that one, watching both of them at the same time at one point, but then all the focus going to that. But as a result, let us know what you guys thought of the Canucks game tonight and what you think about their odds going forward into the next game against Nashville. Let us know down in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.